think time is up. Let's start up with our today's session. Yep. So are you guys able to see my screen and hear me properly? Can anyone confirm if I'm audible and you guys are able to see my screen also? Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. So you are able to hear me also, right? Properly? Oh, okay. Sure. So let us start up with our today's session. Okay, what exactly we had learned till now? We have had introduction, we had understood the configuration, we had also understood in our previous session how we will be able to review the documentation. Okay, and after that how we will be able to get the API keys, how we will be able to import the API calls, and how we will be able to start up and share the same thing to PubSuite as well, right? So this particular things we had understood. Now the next step is how we will be able to, like, whenever we are starting up with our penetration testing, how what exactly will be our first step, right? So normally it will be reconnaissance, or we will be also we will be also conducting the information gathering. So in that scenario we will be gathering the information, whatever are the things, something like if there are any kind of leaked API keys, basically if there is any kind of sensitive data within that particular API call, right? All of those specific things will be we will be taking up, and we will be getting that whether there is any kind of sensitive data which we can use it for other particular vulnerabilities or not. But before that, okay, there is one particular topic which we'll be learning. Okay, as it is a theoretical topic, normally it will not be a major or complex topic, so we'll be starting up with that one, and later point of time, okay, if we are having time in today's session, we'll be starting up with our reconnaissance, or if we will be starting the reconnaissance from tomorrow's session itself. So what exactly is that particular theoretical topic? Normally that is risk governance. Why exactly we are learning governance on the first stage itself? Because whenever we are having any kind of our clients, normally our clients will be falling under some or another kind of governance or compliance. So at that point of time, as a consultant, we need to understand that what all are the compliances which are applicable for that particular organization, and we will be able to make sure that those test cases which are having that particular compliances, or which are available in the requirement of those compliances, will be tested during our penetration testing. Okay, so before going through the governance part, let us understand what exactly is governance, what are the compliances, what are different requirements of compliances, and after that we will be able to understand and make sure that whatever are the APIs which we are testing, okay, whether that particular requirements are available or not. So same thing will be our objective for today's session as well. Okay, we will be understanding what exactly are what exactly are those specific governance, and how exactly we'll be able to we will be able to understand that what are the different types of compliances, major compliances, and how exactly we can recommend our clients that they will be able to follow those specific requirements in order to comply with those specific requirements as well. So first thing is, what exactly is governance? Normally governance is nothing but a specific common rules which will be implemented for the specific set of APIs. Okay, the very common thing will be whenever there is any kind of API which is developed, normally they will be using, or they will be having some kind of centralized repository where they will be able to implement any kind of security policies into that particular centralized repository itself. For example, if I am having 10 different API calls and they are having 10 different functionalities, it will be managed by within a centralized repository, so that if any kind of security policy is implemented, basically they just have to implement at one place, and it will be applicable for other places as well, right? So this is very common thing. So implementation of those common rules, okay, is a part of API standards. Okay, if those policies are deployed in any particular type of organization, normally we can consider that this is what API governance is. Okay, now when it comes to governance, basically there will be governance will be first thing, or the major thing which governance will be telling is following the rules or following the objectives of compliance. Now what exactly is compliance? Normally whenever we are dealing or whenever we are having any particular type of client, our client will be having some specific type of data which they will be holding, which will be sensitive for any kind of user. So normally when it comes to the main when it comes to some kind of organization who are dealing with credit card or debit card details, right? So at that point of time, again it will be a sensitive data. What will happen is the application or the API calls will be collecting either the card numbers, they might be collecting the expiry date, CVV2 or track 2, right? All of those specific things will be used by that particular application. So now what will happen is, as this is very sensitive data, okay, there is a specific compliance, there is a specific standard which will be used, okay, to or basically which will be implemented to those organizations who are dealing with that particular type of data. Okay, so now that compliance is PCI DSS. Now there are many flavors, okay, or there are many multiple standards which are supporting PCI DSS that we will discuss later point of time, but normally this is the main standard which any particular organization who is dealing with cardholder data should be comply with. Now in case our clients, okay, or that their application is dealing with some kind of health records, so at that point of time, okay, what will happen is they will be having the HIPAA compliance. So basically at that point of time, whatever are the details which are collected as a part of health record, okay, there will be a specific objectives that this data should be stored in this kind of format, and the application or the developers, okay, that organization should follow that particular all the requirements, and then only they will be able to get eligible, or they will be eligible for getting that particular certification. Whenever they are holding some kind of PII data, okay, it will be under GDPR, okay, and likewise there will be multiple compliances which will be available. Okay, so after the session I will be sharing it with you guys. Okay, basically management will be sharing you guys whatever are the list of compliances and what are the details or what are the data which that particular compliance should be following at that point of time, okay, that organization should be following at that point of time. Now what will happen is, what exactly are this particular standard or what this particular standards will be doing at that point of time. Normally what will happen is, when it comes to PCI DSS, right, so basically it will be having 14 requirements. Okay, similar kind of things will be there in HIPAA. It will be having again the specific requirements or objectives. Again in GDPR it will be having those specific type of things. Now what will happen is, this will be the 14 main requirements, and normally there is almost 280 sub requirements. Now at that point of time, what it will do is, it will be following or it will be stating that whenever the data is either stored or transmitted or processed, okay, it should be in this kind of format. Something like, if it is transmitted, it should be transmitted by with TLS 1.2 only. Whenever there is any kind of cardholder data which is available, it should be in an encrypted format itself. Okay, if they are storing, they should be storing it with either with this particular type of security. Okay, either it should be encrypted, either it should be hashed, either it should be truncated, or it should be tokenized, right? So basically likewise they will be having specific requirements of how exactly we can be processing, how exactly it should be stored, how exactly it should be transmitted. Okay, and basically based on that, if the application is developed, okay, by following those specific requirements, normally they will be able to pass the assessment, and basically they will be able to get the certification as well. Okay, so whenever we will be going forward and we will be having the specific, or our client will be having those specific type of details as a consultant, okay, they might be a non-technical person, or they might not be knowing what exactly are the compliances which are available. So at that point of time, it will be our responsibility to give them a brief overview of what exactly are the compliances which they might be or they which might be applicable for their organization, and based on that they will be following the next all steps. So now basically what will happen is whenever we are having that governance, okay, why exactly governance should be followed by our clients, and basically why they need to implement all of these particular rules as well. So what will happen is when it comes to this governance, okay, there are majorly four things which governance is majorly, or is the main goal of this governance is, and how exactly it will be implemented, or it will be advantage for our clients as well. So the main thing will be governance, okay, they will be having the specific thing which will be standards, okay, so they will be following, or they will be implementing, they will be asking the organization to implement the specific standards for the policies, okay, so at that point of time they will be having the specific list of requirements which normally organizations needs to follow, and there will be the specific policies. Something like very common policy is something like change management policy, okay, their information security policy, okay. So likewise there will be the list of policies which that organization should be maintaining. Normally, like something like change management policies will be something like whenever there is any kind of new changes which are coming up, something like if they are having some kind of bugs which they want to fix up, right? So what will happen is basically it should be following this particular policy where the first form should be filled up, that yeah, this is the description of change and this particular person is accountable for this particular change. It should also be giving other details, that whether that change is security related or not, right? And after that the change should be reviewed by some of the peer, and then it should be reviewed and approved by their manager. Once this particular process is completed, later point of time the development for that particular change should be started. Once the development is done, okay, so at that point of time there should be one QA, okay, who will be testing. There should be a tester, penetration tester, who will be validating whether it is available, whether it is adding some kind of security vulnerabilities or not. It should follow the SAST, okay, whether the code review from the peer, okay, and then only that particular release should be happening, right? So this is how the normal change management process will be. So likewise there will be the multiple security policies to that particular policies, okay, governance will be applying to that organization, and that policies should be followed by that particular organization itself. We are already having the repository of policies, the list of standards, and the data which should be available for specific standards, right? All of that particular things we are having. Normally after the session I will be sharing the same details with you guys over the drive itself, okay, management will be sharing. So likewise what the main goal of governance is, they will be implying and they will be making that particular organization, okay, whenever they are developing from that particular stage itself, the security vulnerabilities, okay, either it will be low or high, okay, it should be mitigated with the use of specific policies and standards, okay, and the organization will be keeping the data or the users data much more secure at that point of time. So based on that particular thing itself, okay, what exactly governance will be including? There are few things which governance will be including, almost nine things. What will be there? So basically the first thing will be a centralization. So all the policies, okay, which are developed, which are enforced within the organization, something like the things which we have discussed now, okay, so those policies should be there should be a specific security team, okay, which will be creating the policies and enforcing and validating whether the policies are followed within the organization from time to time or not. So that is the first thing. Second thing will be regarding API contract. So when it comes to APIs, okay, basically what will happen is they will be having those specific contracts or subscriptions with different parties. So at that point of time it should be following that particular process where that particular contract will be maintained, and there should not be any kind of delay in that production or basically the development of that particular APIs. The guidelines, okay, so basically it should be remaining constant, so whenever there is any kind of development process, so normally what will happen is there will be multiple teams who will be working in a specific functionalities or multiple functionalities within the same project. So when it comes to guidelines, okay, normally guidelines will be something like coding guidelines, that from the development, something like the vast vulnerabilities should be mitigated. Whenever there is any kind of new code which is implemented from another person, okay, it should be commented out that this particular code is updated by this particular developer. Whenever there is any kind of review which is done, okay, there should be a manual verification that yeah, this particular review has been completed. So likewise, the guidelines should be followed by that particular organization. Next one will be reusability. So when it comes to reusability, it will be something like making the code in a centralized format. So something like whenever I am functioning, or basically I am creating one particular type of functionality, for example I am creating one login functionality or one authentication functionality. So what will happen is this authentication will be used across the same application, okay, and if there are some of the functionalities of some another different applications, the same functionality or the same code can be reused. So what this governance is giving is that particular reusability, or the components which can be reused, okay, should be reused at that point of time, so that whenever there is any kind of security implementations which might be done, okay, it will be on an all the applications. A developer does not need to go from function to a function, or from one code to another code, okay, to implement one particular function, because it will be having the chances to miss out some specific type of areas, right? So when it comes to those specific things, the application, the components which will be reusable, definitely they need to make it in a centralized format, and they should be reusable at that point of time. Next one will be automation. So majorly when it comes to APIs, there will be two type of automation which developers can do. The first automation will be for the QA. So there are multiple tools which will be used for API testing. Here I am not talking about API penetration testing, I am just talking about the normal testing which QA team will be doing. What will happen is the main difference between the penetration testing and normal testing will be, so basically the penetration testing, we will be validating whether there is any kind of vulnerabilities or not. When it comes to normal testing, they will be validating whether the expected response is coming from that particular API or not. So at that point of time, basically if there is if it is expected to give a response of 200 okay with the specific type of details of user, it will be validating whether the APIs is available for that particular response or not. If yes, what are the details which are shown at that point of time, right? So likewise, if there is any kind of basically if there is any kind of other data which is shown up, normally it will be falling under that particular category in the normal testing. So when it comes to APIs, this normal testing can be automated with few of the tools. So definitely they can use that particular automation. They can validate whether it is following, or that particular tools are available or not, and based on that they can make that automation in the place itself. Next one will be versioning. So what will happen is when it comes to versioning, okay, many times whenever you are surfing your web applications, you might have seen in the URL that there might be something like this type of URL, where you might be able to see that API slash v2 and slash some of the parameters are coming up. Even though whenever we will be learning our next all vulnerabilities, you will be able to see this kind of URLs or this kind of parameters at that point of time. What exactly is this thing? Normally it is the version of API which that application is using to complete that function. So what will happen is basically whenever there is any kind of new functionalities which are implemented, or any kind of frameworks are updated, or any kind of libraries are updated, okay, what development team will be doing is they will be maintaining the versions. Now at every organization, I cannot tell you, or I cannot guarantee you that every organization is following the versioning methodology. But what exactly should be happening is they should be having one particular type of methodology which will be used to identify whether the application, or whether that particular API which we are using is up to date or up to the mark or not. So very common thing, or very the thing which standards will be recommending is 4 characters version number. So for example, my API is available and it is following this kind of versioning methodology. So normally the first one should be a specific high level change, something like architecture change, or libraries are changed, okay, or any kind of security implementation has been done. So at that point of time, the first number should be changing. The second one will be for minor changes which might or may not require some kind of security changes, but it will be something like minor function changes or those kind of things. Third one will be something like bug fixes. Okay, so at that point of time, if there is very low things which are not at all which are not at all required, or basically which are not at all falling under security changes category, okay, and it is minor change, something like the fonts are not looking proper, or the receipt is not having the proper function, or they might just change the name, okay, those kind of things. So basically those specific things will be falling under this one. And last one will be patch updates. So if there is any kind of very common change which will be available, okay, so those specific things will be available. So the first two will be falling under the security category, that basically if there is any kind of security, major security changes are done, normally the first version will be changing. If there is any kind of low level security issues are available, the second version is changing, and the last two will not be falling under security categories. It will be just minor fixes and the patch updates. So now, in case if there is any kind of security team which is available within that organization, if they see that there is 1.3.0.0, they will be able to understand that there is some kind of security change which has been done, and they will directly initiate the penetration testing on those specific API calls itself, right? So based on that particular version, the teams are able to understand that whether there is any kind of security change which has been implemented or not, or whether there is any kind of normal changes which are available or not, right? So basically those kind of versioning methodologies should be implemented, and they should be having those specific type of processes where the older version, if the older version is updated with new version, the older version should be depreciated at that point of time. So like for example, if they have developed the application, they have included the functionality, they have released the application, but there are few of the API calls, or there are few of the applications, okay, which they have integrated with, they are still using the older version itself, they are not migrated to the latest version. So again, there will be some kind of security issue, because here you can see the security has been implemented. So at that point of time, the attacker can use that particular integration to exploit, and definitely like they will be able to get the sensitive data, or any kind of that particular data, they will be able to exploit with that particular version itself. So basically whenever there is any kind of version which is available, okay, new version has been replaced, so normally they should be depreciating the older versions as well. So that is the versioning methodology and depreciation policy. The last one will be tracking. So at that point of time, whatever are the things which are available, they should be monitoring it, they should be tracking it. Something like there will be multiple type of SIEM tools, okay, they should be monitoring it, they should be tracking, they should be validating whether there is any kind of malicious payloads which are coming up or not. And based on that, basically if there is any kind of alerts which are coming up, they should be blocking those specific requests. And last one will be API discovery. Normally it is not much more of a security thing. Basically they should be having the discovery, so that any kind of other developers, they want this particular API integration, they will be able to easily get that documentation, and they will be able to easily implement the same things as well. Okay, so these are the main things which governance is including. Okay, now the second thing is how exactly company can implement those kind of things. So what exactly we had understood till now, what exactly will be the main objectives, right, whenever we are having some kind of governance, okay, how exactly it will be, yeah, what exactly are the main things which can be included within the governance. Okay, why exactly it is good to implement governance within our client's organization, and we have understood what exactly are the main scenarios which will be available at that point of time. Now the second question is how exactly we can implement, or we can recommend our clients to implement those things. Now again, as a penetration tester, this will not be coming into our day-to-day work life, okay, but whenever you are having some kind of client, it will be better that you will be recommending those specific things, then they will be taking care of all the things. We just need to share the specific policies with them, and they will be the one who will be implementing the policies. In our penetration testing methodology, these all things will not be coming as a part of our testing, but whenever you are dealing with the specific compliances, normally what will happen is, the compliance requirement will be that they should be having the compliant report or of application PT. Okay, so for example, if you are doing API penetration tested, they should be having the API penetration testing compliant report. So at that point of time, they will be validating whether the specific requirements, okay, are checked or not. For example, in PCI DSS, they are asking to validate OWASP top 10. So whether the OWASP top 10 is validated within our API penetration testing or not, that they will be the auditor, their external auditor will be validating. So our work will be to validate that whether those specific test cases are available or not, that we have checked or not within our test within during our testing of that application. Okay, so before we go forward, any doubts, any queries till now? No. Yes. Basically, what will happen is whenever we are sharing our report, right? So basically, that report will be so that report you will be sharing to your client, right? So whenever they are going forward and they are going through some kind of audit, there will be some external auditor which will be coming up. Now that auditor will review our report and they will validate whether it is having all the security scenario or not, whether the application is compliant or not. So they will be validating those things, external auditor. So for example, if they are going through PCI DSS, right? So there will be PCI QSA. If they are having some kind of HIPAA compliance, there will be HIPAA auditor. Okay, so likewise, basically the auditor will be validating whether though the test cases which are recommended by that compliance are fulfilled or not. Those things. Okay, so client will not be doing anything, but the external third party will be doing those things. Okay. Now the second thing is how basically our clients will be able to implement this kind of things. Okay, so basically there are four things. The first one is plan, administer, enforce, and monitor. So in planning, normally what exactly will be coming up is identifying the issues, okay, identifying the architecture of the organization, okay, and basically implement the policies. So basically, this will be done by the client's information security team. If they are not having information security team, this can be outsourced to some of the cyber security companies as well. Okay, so basically there will be some kind of ISO auditors. Okay, normally they will be the one who will be building up this particular policies, and they will be asking them to implement as well. So in the first phase, what they will be doing is they will be identifying that how many teams are there, what are the job roles of those specific teams, what are the responsibilities of that particular team, what are the assets of organization. Okay, all of those specific things they will be defining. Once they will be identifying, once they are identifying those things, at that point of time they will be defining the specific policies. So they will understand that basically, yeah, this is the set of servers which are falling under this particular standard, right? So at that point of time they will be defining that particular policies, and likewise whatever we had understood right previously, something like change management, information security policies, likewise there will be multiple policies, some even versioning policy will be there. Okay, versioning methodology will be there. Likewise all those specific policies will be done. So once the policies has been defined, okay, the next thing will be to basically set that which particular policy can be done by which set of user. For example, if there is HR policy which has been implemented, so HR has to validate, okay, the user's background, or the person who is attending the job, right? They have to validate whether the things which he is saying during the interview, whether it is correct or not. They should be doing some kind of background verification, right? So it will be specifically for that particular team. When it comes to IT team, so at that point of time IT team should be managing the AIM properly, right? So basically they should be focusing, or they should be validating whether the employees are having the proper set of enforcement within their system or not, whether they are able to go forward and install some kind of unauthorized software or not, right? So all of those specific things. So likewise, the second part will be, they will be going forward and they will be implementing that which team is responsible for implementation of which particular policies. Once they are defining that these are the list of teams, these are the list of policies which they need to follow, the next step will be enforcing. So at that point of time, once they are setting or once they are enforcing those specific policies, after that they will be monitoring whether the policies are followed in a specific set of time or not. So normally they will be taking regular trainings, they will be taking some kind of tests, okay. They will be validating whether everyone is passing or not. They will be auditing, they will be doing the internal audit, and they will be validating whether those the person who is responsible for specific policies are having the knowledge of those that particular policies or not, all of those things. And if there is some kind of change which is required, again it will be following the same process. So likewise, normally it will be four step process which they can follow, and after that normally they will be able to get that particular details. Now when it comes to API, okay, basically API will be having those specific policies which will be implemented, and they are good to go. Normally they will be able to get that particular details. Now what are the security or what are the advantages? Okay, normally advantages will be the organization will be able to get those specific, or they will be having very less hard work to do whenever they are going forward with some of the compliances or standards. Okay, they will be having the proper policy, they will be having the standard operation procedure for each and everything, so that users or employees will be having the specific list of things which they will be able to know that this is the thing which they need to follow. Okay, and everything like based on the specific requirements, they will be able to access the risk, and they will be able to implement the same thing within their security controls as well. Okay, so when it comes to best practices within our API, okay, so the first thing will be implementing the security. Okay, basically the safe, because of that particular thing itself we will be doing the penetration testing. But when it comes to authentication, they should be taking the authentication with some kind of token based authentication, okay, or oath based authentication, so that it will be much more secure than the normal basic authentication. They should be doing the traffic analytics services, okay, so that they will be able to understand whether there is any kind of malicious things which are coming up in the request or not. They will be validating whether there is any kind of throttling or not, something like whenever there is any kind of API call which is coming up and it is having loads and loads of requests, right? So basically API or the server will be throttling the response, so that it will take some time to process, and basically server will not get crashed because of those specific things. It will be following the life cycle management. Okay, so whenever there is the development of that API is happening, so they will, with every stage, okay, there will be security which will be in the place, and they will be able to go forward and implement or increase their security measures, okay, with every stage which is available at that point of time, right? So all of those specific things will be available. So this is why we will be going forward and we will be asking them to implement. Now there will be multiple teams which will be available, okay, during this governance part. Now the first one will be consumers. Normally consumers will be the one which we will be which will be having, okay, in any particular organization there will be security teams, there will be deployment teams, there will be backend teams, there will be hardware and infrastructure teams, there will be support teams, and again there will be the users. Okay, so normally what will happen is when it comes to each and every particular party within that organization, everyone should be following the list of policies which are developed for them, and at that point of time we will be able to go forward and secure the organization on a whole. Okay, so those specific things will be available. So any doubts, any queries till now, anyone? No. So today no one is speaking, so you guys are tired or what happened? Otherwise, someone will be asking some questions or something, right? Yes, Austin. So that is really a good question. Actually, I in my organization also face the same issue. Okay, what will happen is whenever we ask developers that give us the list of API calls so that we will be able to understand which all APIs, like whatever are the list of APIs which we need to test. So what will happen is basically sometimes developer will be taking long, like even 1 or 2 weeks of time to share few of the API calls. Okay, they might not give us the list of API calls, or basically what will or they might give a partial list of API calls. Okay, and the rest of API calls are still unsecure. So normally what I do is I will be directly taking, or I will be directly asking their repo itself. Okay, so for us normally we are using Jenkins. Okay, so at that point of time normally they will be having the specific repo for a specific list of functionalities. So for example, there is the main application which is developed, so there will be a separate repo, and after that there will be the sub trees or the specific branches which will be used for the specific functionalities. So what I will do is I will ask them the main particular repo itself, and from that I will be able to identify that whatever are the things which are applicable for security. Okay, whether there is any kind of external API calls, what are the list of internal API calls. Based on that I will be able to validate. Once I sort out that yeah, these are the list of APIs which are available, what I will do is I will go forward and I will ask the collection files from the developers, and after that they will be able to understand that yeah, this is the thing which they need to share to me, and we will be able to go forward and start our testing as well. Okay, so same thing you can follow in your company as well. But yeah, this is the problem, this is the generic problem with every organization. So definitely, like you might face similar kind of things as well. Okay, so any other doubts, questions, queries, anything for me, guys? No. Yes, Austin. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct. Mm-hmm. Correct. Correct. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. So for normal, like whenever you are doing web application or mobile application, those things will be possible. Okay, we if we are not having any kind of documentation, we are good to go. But when it comes to APIs, okay, APIs we will require the documentation, or like at least we will be requiring the access tokens. Okay, for from which we will be able to access those specific things. So normally in this scenario, definitely that is the one way to go, from which like we should be asking, or they should be providing us the documentation, proper documentation itself, to go forward and get that particular details. Then only we'll be able to do. But in case of web applications or mobile applications, normally those things are not required, and if they are just sharing this APK or URL, it will not be an issue for us. Okay. So in case of internal APIs which are just executed through web application or mobile application, you can just test like how we have done in our yesterday's session, right? We have taken the SoundCloud, and within that particular request itself we were able to get the API call as well, right? So we can directly test. In that we are not requiring any kind of documentation. But if there is any kind of public facing application or external API call, definitely there is no other option other than the documentation itself. So we have to ask that particular thing. Okay. Welcome. Mm-hmm. 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 Can you repeat once more? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh yeah, it will require. Okay. So for example, if there is internal API call. Okay, now let's take that this API call is not exposed outside as well, and second thing is that API call will not be integrated with any kind of third party applications as well. Okay, so basically there is one particular application, and there are few of the API calls which are executed from that website only, and except that website or that particular functionalities, this API call will not get executed. So in this scenario, the recommended way is basically every API should be having authentication, but in this scenario, if they are not deploying the separate API keys or tokens, it is okay. But the API should be using the authentication which is used by the web application. Something like they will be using some kind of session IDs, right? They might be using some kind of session related tokens. Okay, so basically with the combination of user ID, right? So those specific things, if this API is using the same thing which is used by web application for that particular purpose only, it is well and good. But if there is any kind of external API call which will be integrated with different applications, so there they should be implementing the other authentication. Okay, something like API keys, tokens, and those kind of things. Okay, so every API, even though if it is internal or external, should be having that authentication in place. Any doubts, questions, anything from you guys? No? Okay. So basically, this was our today's session. Okay, majorly focusing on the compliance. Now that we have completed or we have understood this particular thing, okay, from tomorrow's session we will be starting up with our reconnaissance. So the main objective for tomorrow's session will be how we will be able to identify whatever are the sensitive data within our APIs, how exactly or which are the places where we can find those sensitive data. Okay, and what are the different ways from which we can access that particular thing as well. Okay, so those specific things we'll be learning in tomorrow's session. So till then, have you guys practiced the yesterday's assignment? So yesterday I have shared two programs, right? So have you guys gone through it? Okay, are you having any kind of queries in that one?